I think we have an audience member who'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, and your name, please?
My name is Barbara Hayes. I'm an anti-war activist, and I work for the Resource Center for Nonviolence. I have a couple of basic questions that you might have touched on, but I'd like a little more clarification. I'm wondering if you could define insurgency and talk a little bit more about how that arises. And I'm very interested in what you might think the motivation is of a group of people who we would term terrorists. What makes them who they are?
Thank you.
I'd love to respond to that for a moment, because in all the reading I've been doing about what's going on in Afghanistan, what keeps coming up is this is a war of counterinsurgency. So then I ask myself, well, then what's insurgents and what is an insurgent? Well, to me, an insurgent in this situation and in Iraq is someone who's responding to the fact that their country is being invaded and occupied and devastated by a foreign power, and they choose to defend their homeland. And then we somehow justify jumping on top of that as counterinsurgency. And to me, that's a little bit of twisted reasoning, and I would say something similar about terrorism, and though I think this is a kind of a simplistic explanation, I think in many situations it works, that when I look at what we call terrorism and the war on terror, I see people who are often doing what I think is the reverse of the golden rule, that they are doing unto others what has been done unto them, that they are overwhelmed by the power and the might of a foreign military, that bombs are dropped all over them, that they have nothing by comparison, they live in poverty, they see no way out of this situation, and so they choose to strap a bomb onto their body and walk into a public plaza. You know, they don't have the planes with the bombs. This is what they have. And to me, it often feels like that out of the frustration, the anger, the grief of losing friends and family, this is a response to what's seen as an overwhelming amount of power from sort of the perpetrating force.
There's a very long literature on both those words, and terrorism is an abuse of the language. To have a war on terror is an abuse of the language. It's an act that one commits, and if you want to define it strictly in political science terms, terror is any act that makes people afraid, and that can be driving your car too fast. It can be, certainly turn over your chair. Anything that intimidates another person with at least the threat of violence is terrorizing.
Yeah.
There are teenagers that terrorize their parents. There are teenagers, parents who terrorize their teenagers, and so on. The word does work that way, but to turn it into a category is nonsense. And the thing that makes the case for this is the two most famous terrorists who've been labeled terrorists, who worked with terror as their basic thing as they were growing up, were two Nobel Prize winners, Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin.
Yeah.
Menachem Begin blew up the King David Hotel in Jerusalem in a terrorist act, according to the common definition. Sadat wanted to blow up the hotel in Cairo, and they caught him first. So basically, terror is someone using force to create a psychological condition. It has nothing to do with good guys, bad guys.
It's like a revenge.
Yeah.
You're taking like a revenge from somebody, and you're convincing other groups, other people who doesn't have lack of knowledge, they don't have education, and you want to convince them to do your own ideology. That's what's going on in Afghanistan. And poverty, especially in Afghanistan and Peshawar in the borders, the biggest issue is like poverty. There's like if a person has like a normal job, he makes like 3,000 kaldar, which is 3,000, that amount of the money. If they work with like this organization, they give them 10,000. So you have to look at, and you have kids and you have family to support, and there's so you automatically choose that organization and you choose to do. and after 1 year, 2 years, they will make you do a lot of things, show you money, and brainwash you, and put their ideology, their own concerns, indirectly and directly to your brain, and you're going to do such an act. But the terrorists, they don't born terrorists. There's a lot of educated terrorists too, that they have revenge. For example, there was like one of the suicide bombers they captured, I think, in one of the provinces in Afghanistan. He was a shopkeeper, a businessman. He said that we were coming from our houses, from our villages, without my 3 sons. We had grow beards. People do in Afghanistan. They grow beards. There's nothing to do with the grow beards in America, in the United States, in Europe. People grow beards. They can do whatever they want. So they had beards. They were wearing their traditional clothes. They were wearing hats. So they got the wrong intelligence, wrong information. So the international forces attack their car, and 3 sons dead in front of this guy. Yeah. So he got up, the old gentleman, he got up, he got the gun, he said, I'm going to fight against this. I'm going to fight for my sons. Because in our religion, in our tradition, if somebody kill your son, you have to kill your son. Or if you have a strong patient, you have to forgive. That's what's happening in Afghanistan. If somebody cannot forgive or forget their son, somebody kill or rape or kidnap or something to the family or to the relatives, to the village, that's what's going to happen. That's a lot of the people has like revenge. A lot of people, they don't have education. They go for poverty because of they want to bring food on the table for their kids. Let's make them like terrorists. But they don't born terrorists. When they were not terrorists before in Afghanistan. So they're like local, normal people. They used because of lack of education, lack of knowledge, lack of that's what's happening.
I read a piece today about the situation in Pakistan, and I want to expand this a little bit because Afghanistan and Pakistan are very politically very closely connected. The Taliban control areas of Pakistan, and in fact, they recently invaded the Swat Valley.
Swat Valley,
correct? And they were at one point, I think, 60 miles from the capital.
70 miles, 70 kilo.
Before, and then the Pakistani military attacked them and drove them out of the valley. Is that correct?
Yes.
But the article was really about the Swat Valley and how you mentioned poverty and how many people there are very, very poor. The government does nothing to relieve their poverty, and so these people are, they have no faith in the Pakistani government.
No.
Emeralds. Are there emerald mines in the Swat Valley?
Yes.
And this was mentioned. And the Taliban control these at one point?
Yes, Taliban controls. It's a very beautiful valley. It's very like a tourist areas like Santa Cruz. It's very, people used to go for like vacation there. It's very pretty. The weather is very nice.
More like Tahoe.
Like Tahoe, yes. And so it's, that's what right now it's, nobody can go right now.
Well, the other thing is that at the moment there are 280,000 people who've been displaced out of the Swat Valley alone, which is the largest migration of people in South Asia, at least, since the migration out of Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, yes, from Soviet war.
So for many years, the United States supported the government of Pakistan, right? The General Musharraf.
Depends on which year you talk about.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you tell me. I mean, you're
after 2001.
You're the expert.
2001.